Good evening. Welcome to another edition of Pegasus Profiles, where we go behind the scenes of some of our most accomplished public access programs and talk to the producers and the technical crew, the people that make these shows happen. With me today is the producer of Starlight Presents, the winner of the 2001 Pegasus Award for Best New Series, Ira Katz. Welcome. Thank you for being with me tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Yours is an interesting case because it's one of the situations where we did a group training where someone, yourself in this case, came into us with an idea and said you had a group of people that wanted to make a specific show together, and we did a set of training classes that were tailored towards this group making this one show. And we really encourage groups doing that, so I'd like you to tell me about your experience with your group coming to us and getting trained.
Well, as you know, I have a background in public access, and as I got more and more involved with the mental health system, and particularly with the peer-run group that was called Starlight Social Club, I saw the possibilities of empowering the people at Starlight, which is, I think, part of my role, by bringing them into the studio, seeing if they wanted to, if they were able to, put a show together. We had a lot of enthusiastic volunteers. The training was fantastic. I did nothing as far as training goes. And as you know, years ago, I used to actually do this training. I was the trainer. I determined to come in as producer and as a support person. Rich, who I believe is in the control room as we speak right now, provided the training. He was excellent. I maybe answered some questions that the crew may have had. Certainly, we had discussions at Starlight about the show, but I let Rich do his job, and he did an excellent job. Everybody loved what he did. We, in turn, presented him an award from Starlight for appreciation. And I was very, very pleased with how he approached the group, how you approached the group. It seemed like it was a very inviting atmosphere. Made it very easy for the folks who, you know, a lot of people, they walk in here and they go, oh, I can't learn this stuff. It looks like a jet plane, you know. And, of course, that happened with our crew, too. We had a couple of kind of techie heads in the group in the first place, but we had people who were determined to do something. And they saw after a while, after 2-3 weeks of training that, for the most part, it wasn't anything that they couldn't grasp. It wasn't anything they couldn't do. And Rich was very encouraging for us. So thank you, Rich, again.
Well, one of the things that really gives satisfaction to us, the staff, is when we have people that come in with the attitude that it's too hard, I can't do it, and then we can convince them that they can do it. And in this particular case, it was really nice to work with a group of people who we could tell were real hesitant at the beginning and were really unsure and kept asking us, you know, we don't know if we can do it. Can we do it? Are you telling us we can do it? And at the end, you know, amazed at themselves that they could do it. So Indeed. It was really a pleasure working with them.
Yep.
When you talked to the group about your idea for the program, Starlight Presents, what was the intent of the message that you want to get out with this program?
Well, initially my idea was to do something around mental health issues from a consumer's point of view. I had two ideas. One is that I had never seen anything like that on television myself, either on public access or on mainstream television. And also, since it is an aspect of my job to create bridges between our group and the community, I thought it would be a great, you know, tool for that. The actual content of the show, I threw to the group. I said, what do you want to do? I've been at this, you know, this end of things, the television end of things, long enough to know that we could have done any number of things. We could have done a news program. There's enough news out there about mental health issues from a consumer's point of view, you know, where we could have had a news desk with an over-the-shoulder graphic. Right. We could have done remote shoots, that is to say, portable cameras, take them in the club, show what we do there. There's a lot of activities, a lot of social activities at the club, dances, group dinners, you know, all kinds of activities. So we could have emphasized what's going on out in the community. We could have gone into people's offices and shot there. But I thought the simplest, straightforwardest way would be a talk show. So that was one of the things I put out.
And of course, you can always expand into some of those other areas, especially shooting in the field, as time goes on, if that seems that it's appropriate.
Well, we have integrated a little bit of that in the show. And I've handled a lot of that myself because it's easy for me, and the rest of the crew really isn't up to speed with that yet. And we did want to break it up just a little bit. But basically, it was their idea. What do you want to do? And this is basically what they come up with. Let's have guests on, talk about the issues.
Well, I'd like to, before we get too much further, you brought some clips to show us from several of your episodes. I think are you up to 5 or 6 right now of episodes
Yeah, I
completed
think we're about to shoot our 6th.
after having started last October, which is a real good accomplishment in that amount of time. And you brought 3 clips to show us tonight.
Yes.
I'd like to give people an example by showing them the first clip so that they see a little bit of the program, and then we can come back and chat some more about it. So if we could roll the first clip, let's take a look at a bit from Starlights Presents.
The assisted outpatient treatment is a portion of the law that is largely in reaction to events that occurred within a year or two that were political hot potatoes. The reaction of the legislature was to recognize that there are some individuals who can get into situations which become dangerous to themselves or others because of a gap in treatment or a plan to deal with a crisis. And the differences in New York, they involve the courts in having an individual go along with the plan that's created. Quite frankly, that legislation also gave really nothing new to the community to deal with this situation, which does occur occasionally. I think it is a rare enough occasion, and we're very careful before getting involved in the courts, that the numbers are going to be very limited. And the numbers that we have gotten involved with actually has worked out quite well. It's the priority of New York State and certainly the county mental health department to start with the least intrusive help that is possible. An individual's own wishes come first. And if someone is potentially going to court, our first step is to ask, is there a plan that you would want to use instead of going to court? If there is, that's what we use. And I think you'll find throughout New York State, most counties.
Well, we're back. This is an interesting clip, and I know Gene wanted to follow up on this a little bit and give us a little behind the scenes about this episode.
Well, that was from our very first show. The fellow behind the Star Spangled table is Rick Livingston, the coordinator of Starlight. The fellow who's talking is Bart DeLuca, who's the mental health commissioner here in Tompkins County. And Rick had asked him about AOT, or assisted outpatient treatment, or assisted outpatient therapy, which is also called Kendra's Law. In the mental health community, in the consumer end of the mental health community, we call it involuntary outpatient commitment, and it's one of the hottest topics under discussion right now. It's basically another way to force people into treatment. I mean, there's no other way to put it. And we've basically asked most of the people on the program what their points of view are on involuntary outpatient commitment. It's, as I say, it's a hot issue. A RAND study just came out saying that it really has a negligible or even a negative effect. So, you know, we decided that it was important to ask the commissioner publicly in a public airing what he thought about it.
Well, I mean, it's interesting in that, in a way, you've had some guests on your show that are either in the political realm or in the bureaucratic realm in mental health services, and you've got someone who's a mental health consumer, putting them in the hot seat and asking them to be accountable for the policies and procedures and laws that are being imposed on the clients of mental health services, which is, I don't think, something that we see every day.
That's correct. Yeah, as I had mentioned earlier, I have never seen a show on at all, or even I listen to talk radio. Very, very rarely do you get to hear the consumer's point of view. And there are about 500,000 people in New York State alone with a diagnosis of severe mental illness. Who is speaking for them, other than the professionals? Now here you have an example of mental health consumers themselves, and some people who have been in the system for quite a while, and who are heavily involved in one level or another, even under medicated treatment, creating a television program to discuss these issues. It is not our aim to be confrontational. You know, we didn't want to challenge, you know, Mr. DeLuca, you know, with a finger in his face, but I think challenges are warranted.
But you wanted to speak to him as a peer.
Yes, indeed.
Not as, really at the same level, which is very, very interesting and quite an exciting concept.
Indeed. I mean, a lot of people don't understand that people in mental health treatment don't necessarily need to go to a Freudian psychiatrist and take Prozac. There are others, there's a wide variety of other kinds of treatments, including what's called intensive community treatment, which includes peer-run agencies such as Starlight. By the way, Starlight used to be called Starlight Social Club. We have changed our name with a number of other changes, which I could tell you about, and we are now Starlight Peer Advocacy Center for Empowerment, or SPACE. That is our new name. We are the Space Heads, the true Space Heads.
Well, so now you've got to put your stars in space when you're
Indeed.
doing your show decor.
Indeed. So we still refer to ourselves as Starlight. That's our first name, but we're no longer the Starlight Social Club, but we are the Starlight Peer Center.
In the 5 episodes that you've done and the time that you've been working with the members of the technical crew, and I presume come back and had production meetings at the club and talk to them, what kind of feedback have you got from the members of your group as to how they like doing this?
Some of the folks are very enthusiastic about more training. They want to learn more. Everybody wants to direct. That's one thing, and that is a fun
job. That's
job.
good, because very often that's what you find is the hardest when you keep doing studio classes, finding people who have the courage to direct.
Yeah, indeed. You are kind of on the line as director. I find that to be the most fun, and I think I have conveyed that enthusiasm to some of the members. Fortunately, the fellow who does our technical direction, which is actually, doing the switches and the dials, he is interested in directing, and he's very good. He really saves the show in a lot of ways, and that's Doug.
That's Doug,
Boudreau,
right?
yeah. And he has a technical background, and so that helped. So at this point, we have 2 or 3 people who want to learn more about direction and be in the director's chair, so that's very good. We have a couple of folks who are still, let us say, shaky about what they're doing. They don't quite grasp it. They either kind of do it and are going through the motions, or they're just on the edge of doing it, and they like being involved with the show, but not too much. Yeah. So, that's been a little different. We have a lot of interest from people who haven't yet joined the crew to be involved.
Well, one thing that's nice about a group effort doing something like this is you can afford to have the more timid people be a member of the group and just contribute to the point where they're comfortable and gradually get a little more confidence over time. I was talking in another episode with Marilyn Rowland, who produces a comedy show called The Fractal Players. And she spent a year working with the producer of that show as an actor, just kind of looking at what the technical things were going on, but too afraid to do any of it herself, too afraid to come to a class and so on. And now she's the producer of that show and does all the technical stuff herself, but she had to look on timidly for quite a while before she got the courage to act on that.
Right.
So the nice thing about the group is it gives those more timid ones an opportunity to take as much time as they need to become comfortable, which is why I'm always so pleased when a group comes in together to do something, because there's that support for the timid one that people alone don't really have.
Yeah, indeed. It does. The group does support each other, but particularly in the sense of, like, we have a show to do. Everybody knows it's important to the issues of peer advocacy, and so there's, beyond the group effort of that we have a program, we have an important program, and so you do get some of that.
So everyone's committed to the message that you want to get out.
I like to think so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, let's move on to your second clip, and this time I'm going to give you an opportunity to set it up first, so you'll have to do that afterwards. Tell us what we're going to see.
One of the things we like to do on the program is take you out of the talk show format a little bit and bring you to a Starlight sponsored event or to something that we were involved with. This next clip is kind of a edited package of our Self-Help and Advocacy Council of Central New York trip. It was I believe their 10th anniversary, and a bunch of us from Starlight went there to train in peer advocacy, and we actually all did a 25-hour intensive self-help advocacy training and received certificates for that. And there were also a number of workshops and other things. So I added together a package to kind of give an idea of what was going on there. And that's basically what this clip is.
Okay, so let's take a clip. Let's see a clip from another episode.
Do at Starlight. And in November, we attended a conference in Amsterdam called the Challenging Stereotype Conference. It's a self-help and advocacy council of Central New York that was the promoters of the conference, and including in the conference, we had, particularly from Ithaca area, 7 folks that attended the self-advocacy training to be prepared to help our peers do advocacy in a self-help movement. If we can now go to that videotape, and I will explain at different times what was going on. As you can see, this was in Amsterdam, New York, at the Best Western. And there is our name, Self-Help and Advocacy Council of Central New York. By the way, I am the chair of that group. We serve 26 counties. We also, this was our 10th anniversary, and this was our dinner on, I believe it was Saturday night. And there's one of our members doing a workshop by the name of Melody Young. And there was the training piece that the self-advocates attended, enjoying the cup of coffee, and a busy day. And there is another member, Suki Verde, was doing a training at one of our workshops. And another one, Yanka Message, along with Doug Boudreau. They were doing a workshop on eating and herbs, eating healthy and herbs. And there I am with tearing down, I believe, it was on a Sunday afternoon. That pin is an IOC. And there's the self-help and advocacy buttons, which was one of the fundraisers that we do. And there we are wrapping up.
Okay, we're back. That's another clip from Starlight Presents. Is there anything that you want to add to what we've just seen?
It was a great event. I had a great time, actually. In this field, it's not just the mental health system, it's peer advocacy in the mental health system, which is just like its own thing. And I've been to a number of conferences and group workshops and stuff. It's phenomenal to see this kind of empowerment in a group that only very recently became empowered. You know, for years.
Well, that was something that I was going to mention, because some of even the terminology that we're using, clients, consumers of mental health services, for instance, that kind of term is not, I mean, I hear political correctness all over it, but it's not really in public parlance. There's, you know, peer advocacy, all these kind of terms. The public isn't really familiar with this terminology. They're not really familiar with thinking about mental illness in this kind of way, as the same as other kind of social services. There really is still an us-them kind of mentality from years past, and so you really serve in a program that's aimed at the entire community, not just narrowcasting to a small section, to educate the public about the new trends in really discussing and dealing with issues of mental health services.
Indeed. Well, I mean, as I was mentioning, maybe 3 or 4 decades ago, people with severe mental illness were institutionalized and or given intensive outpatient treatment, which meant 3 or 4 times a week in some kind of shrink's office, generally Freudian-oriented, with lots of medication. That has changed over the years, and it's changed for a lot of good reasons. But among them is statistical proof that people can do a lot more on their own if you give them that leeway. If you know, they don't have to be assisted for everything. Some people do need some supports, and it's helpful to have professional support in certain circumstances. But people can do a lot more.
Well, even referring to it as, or even thinking of it as support rather than control.
Correct.
I mean, it's the way that you view it that's being turned on its head to put the people who are receiving mental health services in charge of their lives and their future rather than being controlled by someone else. So, but it's just not a point of view that the rest of us have occasion to really think through as an issue very often. So it's really interesting that this group is taking the time to educate us and help us grow in terms of how we see the people that are consuming these consumers of mental health services who are sharing this town with us.
Well, I appreciate that point of view. I mean, the basic question is, whose life is it? And if I have a problem, if I have a psychological problem, an emotional problem, or I mean some kind of crisis, who determines what I do about that? And particularly if I'm not hurting myself or anybody else. It gets a lot more complicated if I am hurting myself or could be a danger to somebody else. But if I'm not, who determines what happens? And that's the vast majority of people who are suffering from some kind of psychological disorder or some kind of distress. Somebody else is getting to decide what they're supposed to do.
Right, and for the most part, as far as the general public is concerned, the only time the issue comes to the fore where there's a general public discussion is when there's an extreme act of violence that makes all the papers and everybody's talking about it, and it's so inflammatory that it's hard to see the issue in its broader context. So I see that your show's trying to address that.
And there's another thing that we're trying to address. I mean, two broad things. One is that we, the people who are mental health consumers, are not them. We're not those people. And so often, even today in the 21st century, that is the point of view. And the other is to also show people who are in the system that they can do a whole lot more than they're being told. A lot of people aren't aware that there are peer-run groups and self-help advocacy organizations such as Starlight, where they can come meet other people who know the score, who know what it's like. How can you go for treatment to people who have never been there? They don't know what you're going through. They've never been in an institution, shot up with Thorazine and locked in a padded cell. That happens to people every single day. When you meet with other people who have been through that kind of thing, statistics have shown, research has shown, your chances to improve your situation are dramatically increased.
Well, speaking of empowerment of someone who has received mental health services and really is accomplishing a lot, although they may still have some struggles, I think your next clip kind of addresses that.
Indeed. Stuart Halber, a lot of people around town either know him by speaking with him directly. He's a very forward gentleman. He has a lot of political views, and he's friendly in his way. He's one of the founders of Starlight. He's an activist in peer-run treatment type of advocacy. And we had him on as a guest, and I believe our next clip will address some of his issues.
Okay, so we're going to take a look at another episode of Starlight Presents with guest Stuart Halber, who is also receiving services and also a member of the technical crew. And in this particular case, he is a guest on the show.
Danger to others under the law.
Okay. And now, when do you feel, or what do you feel about the state itself? I mean, like funding. Do you think that there should be more funds available for peer?
Well, I think that the majority of the funding from the closing of the state hospitals in 1963, they had 95,000 beds. Now they've closed 70,000 of those beds, and the money's supposed to go back into the community. Gene Katz and I have been working with NIAPRIS on the computer to find out where the money is going. As far as I know, the money has gone back, most of the money has gone back into the community for services to clients, but we're an exception to the rule. All the other agencies in the county are professionally run. We're not. We're peer run. The board is all peers except for a couple of outside people. The staff is all ex-mental health peers. And, if there were more clubs like this, the governor and the legislators don't think they vote. They would rather listen to the Friends of the Mentally Ill and, and all these organizations which think, we should have forced medication and forced hospitalization. I was hospitalized 3 times, and they scared the hell out of me. That's about all they did for me. Put me on medication and scared the hell out of me so I don't, maybe that's part of what the system does. They try and scare you hard enough so you won't come back again, and they won't have to spend, $1,500 a day in a private hospital or $1,000.
And we're back. I must say that I found this particular episode particularly powerful. And I guess it's just because it's someone that I could see was struggling but was able to speak for themselves, and someone that I probably might not get to know in my regular life. And after seeing the program, I definitely would go up to that person and talk to them and say hi and think that I could be friends with them, and I might have hesitated before that.
Indeed.
And it's almost, it's like a window that's opened that wouldn't have been there otherwise. And I thought it was very brave of him to to do the show, and very, very powerful as well.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that. I mean, I think that's part of the main points of the show is to kind of destigmatize people who are mental health consumers. Stuart is clearly a very articulate fellow. He feels passionately about a lot of these subjects and will engage people in conversations, you know.
Well, we've got about 2 minutes left, and I just want to give you an opportunity to tell us what's ahead for the Starlight Presents, because I know you've got some changes coming up before we wrap up.
Well, there have been changes with the club itself. We moved out of the mental health building to the Mental Health Association. We're now at the Henry St. John building. We're not in the Tompkins County Mental Health building anymore. And also, Rick, who has been hosting the show, has a pile of more work, and so right now it's going to be difficult for him to continue hosting the show.
So you're going to be hosting it yourself.
I'm going to be
for a
taking
while.
on the duties for a while, possibly with a co-host. I've been seeking within our community for a co-host. We have a lot of interesting guests coming on. We expect to have Larry Roberts on real soon. Marty Luster has expressed an interest in being on, and we certainly would love to have him on. He has a new appointment with the Assembly that deals with mental health issues. We plan to have Kathy Calori on, who's with Peer Accreditation, a dynamic new agency that's of interest to peers and peer-run organizations. And we hope to just expand our viewpoint as we go along so that the people watching will see more of what goes on in this whole interesting enterprise.
Well, I wish you much success, and I
Thank
hope
you.
we see this program continuing throughout the year
too.
and doing many, many more wonderful programs. Thank you for being with me here tonight.
My pleasure.
And congratulations on your award.
Thank you very much.
For those of you out there, if you think after viewing some of these programs that you could do a TV show as well, please call us up at PEGASYS and come down to our orientation. We'll sign you up for a free video training class, and we'll get you started on the road towards making your own TV program about the topic of your choice. Thank you for being with us tonight with our peek behind the scenes of Starlight Presents. I hope you watch the show and tune in to PEGASYS many times in the future. Have a good night.
Good night.